Bonjour, and welcome to another episode of The Inner D. And for today's episode, I kind of wanted to talk about something that I guess, forgot that I had or am dealing with, but something that I guess I remembered it at a game night I had. Well, a game night that I went to over the weekend. It was Saturday, I believe, and so I kind of I kind of hinted at it before in a way that I describe overthinking. In a way, I talk about isolation. In a way, I talk about feeling everything deeply. But I never actually name it specifically. And so um, I've been living with bipolar disorder. Um, I would say I think I think I really started having it back in high school, especially during my later years. But I didn't really get diagnosed with it until freshman year of college because I could feel like something was happening, but I you don't really like know what to do. Like I guess it goes into like knowing yourself and knowing that something's wrong and like looking up symptoms of yourself and trying to explain it to a doctor. And so that's how that process kind of went for me, I would say. And as I've gotten older, I realize it's not just something I have. It's something that has shaped how I move throughout through the world, how I connect, how I retreat, how I love, and how I pull away. And so for this episode, I want to talk about how and what it looks like in my life in particular. When people hear the word bipolar, um, I would say for the most part, they all imagine like the extremes. They imagine someone wildly unstable, explosive, unpredictable, out of control. What they don't imagine is how quiet it can be. For me, the highs don't always look chaotic. Sometimes they look like clarity. Sometimes they look like brilliance. Sometimes they look like I finally figured everything out. There are moments when my brain moves fast, ideas connect rapidly. I feel creative. I feel driven. I feel confident in a way that almost feels foreign. It's like every insecurity goes silent for a second or two. Like I'll start planning 10 things at once. A new writing, a new writing, like a new idea for a story that I'm writing, a new show idea, a new version of myself. And in those moments, I genuinely believe I can sustain that energy forever. But the thing about highs is that they don't warn you when they're ending. And then comes the drop. Not dramatic, not cinematic, heavy. It's like the color drains out of everything. The same goals that felt electric now feel exhausting. Testing someone back feels like climbing a hill. Going to class feels like dragging myself through a fog. Smiling, smiling feels like work. And the worst part of it all, I'm actually aware of it. I know I was different a week ago. I know I felt lighter. I know I felt capable. And now I feel muted. Not always sad, sometimes just flat. That's the part people don't see. At least that's how I think of it anyway. Depression doesn't always make you cry. Sometimes it just makes you stare at the ceiling. Now layer anxiety. Now layer having anxiety, general and in the social kind, on top of all that. General anxiety feels like background noise that never shuts off. There's always something that could go wrong, something I might have said wrong, something I might have misinterpreted. In social anxiety, that one hits differently. I talked before about how hard it is for me to just walk up to someone, especially a girl, and start a conversation. And I would say people think it's just shyness or just me being shy, when that's not always the case for the most part. It's running simulations in my head before I even speak. It's imagining rejection before it happens. It's preparing for awkwardness before it exists. It's hearing the words, why would she even want to talk to you? Before I've even said hello. When I like someone, my brain doesn't just feel excitement, it builds entire storylines. It plays out the worst case scenario in HD clarity. It plays out things like she thinks I'm weird. She thinks I'm too intense. She thinks I'm too quiet. She thinks I'm awkward. She's she sees right through me. And even when nothing has happened, my nervous system reacts like something already did. That's what anxiety does. It treats imagination like evidence. And when you're living with bipolar disorder, your emotional intensity can amplify that anxiety. If and if and when I feel interested in someone, I don't feel it lightly. I say for me, I feel it really deeply. And death can be beautiful, but it can also be really overwhelming, especially for someone like me. Sometimes I don't avoid talking to someone because I don't care. I avoid it, however, because I care too much. Because rejection wouldn't just sting, it would echo. When I was younger, I guess I would say all the way up to high school, or I guess in the middle of high school, however you want to put it, I didn't have a language for any of this. I guess I sort of just thought that I was too much based on society norms and family beliefs and actions that they did. I thought I was too emotional. I thought it was too quiet. I thought it was too intense. I thought it was too withdrawn. I thought it was too inconsistent. I didn't understand why I could be social and confident one week and then want to disappear and be not around people the next. I didn't understand why sometimes I felt invincible. Like, I guess when I say invincible, I guess like confident to be in social situations. And other times, I felt like a burden to people. And I would say, as I've gotten older, more older, I become more aware of patterns. I notice when my thoughts speed up. I notice when sleep changes. I notice when I start isolating. And here's something I've learned: functioning and being okay are not the same thing. If I have to pick between the two, I would say I've learned how to function. I can show up. I can host a show. I can write deeply layered psychological thrillers. I can analyze faith, masculinity, and identity. But internally, sometimes I'm managing in waves, and no one sees the management. They just see the output of it all. One of the hardest parts of having bipolar disorder for me has been definitely the isolation. Not forced isolation, more or less chosen isolation. When I'm overwhelmed in in most situations, primarily social, I tend to withdraw a lot. I don't respond to text right away. Actually, yeah, yeah, that is true. I feel like I'm going to respond, but depending on what it is, because either either I respond right away or I it takes me a few hours. Because I don't think I never. Cause that's something I kind of don't like about Americans is like how the whole communication thing. Because I don't think I'll never um, respond more than 24 hours. Because I think it'll always be in that same 24-hour frame. So I think so I would say the longest would be like a couple of hours that I don't respond, if not quickly, or if not right away. I mean, I cancel plans where like, and by cancel plans I mean I just won't like show up and just because I know I feel like that's kind of another thing too. Because I feel like in the back of my mind, I know I'm not gonna be missed. Like no one's gonna like care that I wasn't there, and so it's like people aren't missing anything by like me not being there. So and then I convince myself that people don't really need me there, which is kind of just what I just was talking about. And afterwards from all of that is having guilt because as a human, I still do want connection with people. I would say I do want community with others. I do want to be seen because I feel like a majority of humans, I would say 95%, want that in other people. I think it's just the cliche thing of just finding the right people or finding your people. But sometimes being seen feels really exposing. I'll say that's especially um, pertinent to me because I feel like I have to play many different characters who I would say are like versions of me, but not 100% me. So I guess it's always a thing like um, who knows what version of character that you're getting on any given day, you know. And I say that because I would say for me, it's strange wanting closeness, but also feeling safest alone. And when you're a man, especially in spaces where strength is valued, you don't always feel like there's room to say, "Hey, my brain feels unstable sometimes." Because I feel like that will bring the room or the vibe down um, instantly. And so I think it's like kind of like a thing of like or with men talking about discussing mental health. It's like that stigma there. It's like especially coming from a man, like you can't really be kind of open about that, especially in a place like in especially in a place like college, in a place like Memphis, definitely in a place like, and definitely in a place like America. So you learn, and I learned to carry it quietly. Um, I've become introspective. I analyze myself. I self monitor. I become hyper aware of my own emotional shifts, and that's really exhausting. Now, there have been a few moments in my life, unfortunately, here at college, where I've genuinely liked someone, and I would say I let my own mind sabotage the possibility before it even began. Not because I didn't want it, but because my brain convinced me it would end badly. I've overlied eye contact. I've replayed several conversations 20 times, at least, or over 20 times. I questioned tone in a text that probably meant nothing. Yeah, I'm definitely guilty of doing doing that for sure a lot. And sometimes I pull back before they ever had the chance to respond. And that's not a lack of interest. That's fear wrapped in self protection. And when you combine bipolar intensity with social anxiety, you don't just feel rejection. You anticipate it like it's inevitable. But here's what I'm learning, or at least trying to learn. My emotions are valid, but they are not always accurate. Just because I feel unwanted doesn't mean I am. I think I learned that because one of the people I, I know of and kind of frequently around, I would say about every week, Micah, who I had on the who D'Angelo had on his show, Dimensions of D. Um, I would say he's like he's like a calming like person like to be around for me. It's like I guess I guess I'll even go to say like he's like one of the people like when I see him I was like, I'm happy to see him. Like I don't know. I guess he has just like I wouldn't know if I use the word safe, but I feel like that's the closest thing to what I'm thinking in my head of what it is. So and so like but to go back, but I would say he's definitely one of the people who makes me feel wanted and like like because I feel like he can actually see me compared to like literally everyone else. Um, but yeah, just because I feel like a burden doesn't mean I am. I think Micah makes me feel that too. Just because I feel awkward doesn't mean I am. And maybe strength isn't pretending it doesn't exist. Maybe strength is naming it and talking about it and creating those conversations about this topic and normalizing it and breaking the stigma so more of us, especially men, can be honest and open about what we're going through. I would say I'm definitely still learning to live in the middle, because I would say I don't think I'll definitely say I'll never be complete. I'm still um I would say I'm still trying to grow as a person. I feel that's I think it's I would say it's a sad thing to say, but like I feel like most of my growth has been here at college. I think just because this is kind of like the only kind of setting that I'm around a bunch of people, like frequently more frequently I would say, and so I'm curious to see the I guess the level of growth I will be outside of college, and so but who knows? Because one thing I believe is that even though they're kind of more or less the same people, but to me, I would say that the people in the real world, like the people like everyday people, are vastly different from the people you meet in college. Because I feel like it's something about like this college persona that like people are kind of unknowingly attached to them, and but when they're out in the real world, it's like you have to kind of like fend for yourself, if that makes sense. And so I would say I'm not chasing the highs, not drowning in the lows, but building um, steadiness. Just trying to manage it all. Cause something I was thinking about when coming up for the idea for this episode is I think a metaphor I came up with was I'm like a functioning bipolar person, like how they're what I've heard terms where like people are like functioning alcoholics. I feel like that's how I am with like bipolar. Like I have my moments where like it's like the kids they would say down bad, but I feel for the most part I trying to keep it contained and not really noticeable. I feel like, but honestly, I feel like only person who notices it the most is me. Is me. So I think it's just music, writing, doing this definitely helps take some mind off it. Something else I've been thinking too is just finding those distractions, which writing, music, and doing this helps with that. And so, and to close out this episode, I would say lastly, maybe learning to manage death without losing yourself is actually the real work of life, I would say. And with that, that concludes another episode of The Inner D. Have a good one.